Well, first things first, I'll start off by saying I don't have any answers on Billy, so we can just get that out of the way right now. Don't know a whole lot. Good to see, though, that he was back out there, able to be a part of the game and be with our team and things like that. So hopefully that's a really good sign for things moving forward, but we won't have any updates right now. I would say, that obviously, defensively, that was a heck of a game. And I'm not singling out any one person. I haven't even looked at the stats. It's easy to say, obviously, Mike Tressel and that defensive staff did a really good job in the preparations and really made some really good adjustments. I don't know that maybe initially we expected the quarterback to run the ball quite as much. And I think the first couple series he came out and showed that they were willing to run the quarterback. And I thought our guys adapted and adjusted really well to that. Played really well on third down. I think hopefully that's a great sign for us moving forward. As you can see that we've done a much better job creating pressure. Those guys up front creating havoc, whether they're sacks or not. Sometimes that's the most overrated stat in football. To me, it's a little bit more about pressures, is getting the guys off the spots and being aggressive enough at those situations that you can always keep somebody not comfortable or on their heels back there. And I thought that's where the defensive front did a really good job tonight. And then what can you say about Preston Zachman? I think that a guy in his sixth year, it's sometimes it's tough to say, well, he's gotten a lot better, but I really his confidence level from what I've seen all through fall camp showed in tonight, and I'm excited for him. I'm proud of him, and it wasn't just the two picks. He's really stepped up in his leadership and really has kind of taken a great grasp. I've always been a guy that in particular, the leader of the defense comes from interiorly, usually the linebacker, and it still can. And we have a collective group of leaders, but there's definitely a guy out there in Preston that has done an unbelievable job at just being a really calm but aggressive leader.
Luke, considering the way things have played out at quarterback the last couple of years, do you feel snake bit at all?
Oh, no. I mean, we talked about complimentary football. We talked about, hey, you're going to have to handle adversity. It always happens. It happened in fall camp. I can honestly say that, no, that was by far the furthest thing that I was expecting or hoping, or obviously wouldn't hope, but to have any type of adversity like that. And so, more than anything, you just had to kind of keep a straight face and don't show any emotions of any sorts. And I thought our guys did a really good job of that. I thought Billy showed a really good job. I thought Danny showed a really good job of that. And in particular, I think the defense showed. So it was definitely one of those things where, someone's down and you're like, no, he didn't get hit. So don't know much about it. Just as it's all said and done, we'll find out. But it's one of those things where, hey, this is where you find out what you're made of. And I promise you that we're going to be built a little bit different than to say, hey, it's all on the shoulders of whoever comes in there taking that snap. And to be honest with you, Billy probably took 85% of the snaps the last 6-7 days. And you'd say, well, hold on, isn't there some balance to that? I think in game one, I think with the new offense, I think that there was a lot of snaps, even if there was a two line or some two other guys out there that Billy was taking. So Danny had to do an incredible job of the mental reps of being prepared. And I don't know if that answers your question, but I don't really want to think much more about that.
Another Danny question. I guess I'm wondering when, since he and Billy are sort of, different types of players, how much of a challenge is that for not just him to come in, but just the offense? And do you have to call things differently with Danny?
You'd have to ask Coach Grimes that. I mean, look, when as we started this since January, the whole idea was, look, we can't be so handcuffed if by chance that another quarterback goes into the game and guys have to be able to do what we're asking them to do. And whether they're 6'4", 6'3", like Billy, or 6 foot, 6'1", I don't want to cheat him out of an inch. Whether he has the arm, what kind of arm, there's things that these guys got to be able to do. It's commanded offense. It's understand, an incredible amount of shifts, motions, and things that the offense has. And so that's where, that they all can do things, pretty darn well. and they've all worked at the same thing. So is the offense that much different? No, it's not. I think that there's strengths of guys based on, okay, how they throw the deep ball, how do they throw the deep out, how do they, what are their other strengths? The quarterback run was in the game plan, whether it was Billy or Danny or Hunter, and those are just things that all encompassing that the offense will be able to do.
You'd mentioned you'd hope to start in midseason form. Is that hard to evaluate given some of the adversity you faced?
No, I think that when you have adversity like that in midseason form, you got guys that have confidence in what they're doing, whether that's the guy coming in or the guys around them. Midseason form is, I don't think there was a whole lot of pre-snap penalties. We didn't have a substitution error, all 11. I mean, I thought we were really sound. Now, we had a bad punt to start off with, but I thought we were really sound in the special teams game. And that's what I'm talking about when I say I have a good feel, when I say this, we're in a different place. You can have a struggle, you can have a tough game, you can, obviously have an adversity like losing, have a quarterback go down, but you can still play the game the way that you expect to be able to play it. And that's what I thought we looked like tonight. There's nothing that we did to beat ourselves. I think maybe, maybe the interception in the end zone, maybe the one throw there to the field side that could have been a pick. Other than that, there's a lot of things we got to do better. Don't get me wrong. I mean, sacks and minus yardage plays, minus ones and minus twos you can overcome. Minus 15s are tough to overcome, and that's where we've got to make sure we do a better job.
Luke, you mentioned the quarterback run game from them, and it seemed like bringing guys like Kamir and Deani from the edges really slowed that down. Was that kind of the adjustment you guys had to make on the fly for that?
A little bit. I think when those guys came from the edges, I don't think they tackled him, though. So I'm not sure that, it's one of those ones like that's a really good call. It was a great effort for the guys, obviously, running them down, but became some opportunities to get some guys free. But you know what? That's I think our maturity showed defensively in particular, meaning when all of a sudden they started riding the thing, they started really kind of holding it. That's not something that you see every day. That's not something that we worked all the time, but that's something that you obviously have to be able to adjust and adapt to. And so whether it was trying to get some situations where we could bring some edge pressure to guys like Mason Reiger and Cheeks and DP of being really under control on the edges, because that's where your discipline, really shows. And to be honest with you, the last 2 years, we would have struggled. I really do think so.
Luke, you just mentioned a few of those players, Sebastian, Mason, DP. They all kind of impressed throughout fall camp. It seemed like they came together on some TFLs tonight. Just what elements can they bring to the outside of that defense?
I think there's a bunch of them. I think that's the thing, and I think it'll be interesting because I all think they have different strengths. They bring different things. So people, edges, guys will have to prepare for different people. I mean, Mason Reiger's different than Cheeks, which is different than DP, and there's right now it's game one, and it's there's an unselfishness that I think is where the strength of what we have right now. I mean, I don't know who started in some of those situations. I don't know who started out there on the field. I'm sure you guys do, and I'm sure you'll ask. But the truth of the matter is, I really don't think that they cared. And, that's where we got to continue to grow with.
Steve, second row. Just how much of a luxury is it to have somebody with starting experience the way Danny does, and how much of a priority was that in the offseason to get maybe multiple guys who had starting experience?
Yeah, I mean, it was a priority. It was a priority to make sure we had a room full of guys we felt like would be competitive. We're not denying that we, obviously when Billy came in here, we basically said, you're our guy. But we really wanted to have somebody who was going to come in and think that they could take that from him. And I think that's where, if you ask me what Danny's strengths are, I think it's that. I think it's just that there's a confidence level that he has. Obviously, he played last year. He's played a lot of ball, and I think that goes a long way too. But the maturity to be able to be prepared well enough to go out and perform when, let's be honest, you don't get as many reps as hindsight, you liked, well, maybe we should have split those things 60-40 or even 50-50. You go with the ones and you go with the twos. But you kind of got to understand that in this game, right? I mean, you never know when your number is going to be called. And, to have a competitive excellence means you got to be prepared when that time comes. And I thought he did a good job. Obviously, don't get me wrong, there's going to be some things that we're going to be harping upon. But you never could tell that from his face on the sidelines, and there's a confidence level that it's not something you can teach.
Luke, just wanted to get your initial impressions of the run game, especially with Dylan getting this being his first.
Yeah, I don't know statistically and things like that. I know that I could have told you that they were going to make it very, 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 very difficult to run the football. If you look at the beginning of the year last year, they played in Notre Dame, and they don't run the quarterback. They don't run the football. It's just they do a really good job. I can tell you that I've played them for 6 years straight and know the consistency to what they do. And, so I think they were going to make it a challenge. But I thought we did a good job. Obviously, the minus yardage plays are the things that stand out. I don't know what the stats are. What I'm most impressed with was those guys' ability to roll in there, those guys' ability to, get yards after contact, and most importantly, their ability to take care of the football. Because as a young guy, that's certainly with 8 minutes to go in the game, with two freshmen or a redshirt freshman and a true sophomore back in there, and Yak too. You don't want to keep harping upon take care of the football, but those guys did a really good job of taking care of the football night.
Last two, Colton, Zach.
Luke, I know it's really hard to evaluate a single player without being able to watch the film yet, but for Davis Heinsohn, could you identify any of the trouble spots that he might have had?
No, that's if there's the most. I thought you were going to ask me about a defensive player, an edge that can statistically show you some things. It's easy to point out maybe play one, but I think that maybe we had that similar play with Riley on the other side too. So, there's a lot of things we got to continue to get back to, and we'll have to get better at. And that's why I said when there's 9 guys down there, I'll be honest with you, I've been a D lineman. Like you got a lot more freedoms to come under and be aggressive when there's nobody deeper than 8 yards from the line of scrimmage, which means you got to throw the ball sometimes a little bit more down the field, and that might be one of those things that we just need to look at. But look, everybody had their moments in game one. We know we got to make sure that the biggest improvement continues to come from that game 1 to 2.